Hi, everybody. My name is Marcy Burdick, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Hall of Fame Board. I'm going to be your MC today, and we are thrilled that you're going to spend some time with us this afternoon to re-celebrate your own induction into the Hall of Fame or that of a family member or a friend. And whether it's been 40 years since you've been with us or you're meeting us for the first time, we're really grateful for the opportunity to tell you how the inductee legacies are active and alive within the South Dakota Hall of Fame. So this is going to be a fast-paced hour and 15 minutes as we spotlight our former inductees. Let me give you just a quick outline of how we're going to proceed tonight. So I am going to introduce the inductee anniversary classes and the inductee members or their family and friends who said they'd be able to join us today. We know some people's plans may have changed, and we are recording this program so they can see it, or you can watch it or share it with other people who couldn't join us today. So I'm going to be introducing each of the anniversary classes by 5-year increments, starting with 2015 and ending with 1980. I hope you will wildly wave your hands and signal when we talk about you or your inductee. And let me say right away that the accomplishments of each of these inductees are immense. And we don't want to keep you here all night, so I have done my best to try and capture the highlights of their lives in a short summary, but all of this information is available on the South Dakota Hall of Fame site, sdhalloffame.org, and it's fascinating reading if you ever want to go in and spend more time with it. So one little technical note. As I introduce each class, we're going to have a picture of that class come up, and then I'll quickly read the names of each inductee who are going to be honored in that 5-year group. For the rest of you, if you're not in that 5-year group, if you would turn off your webcams, that then makes the pictures of those that we're talking about at that moment be larger. And if that is just too much for you, if you're not familiar with how to do that on whatever device you're doing, don't worry about it. This is an informal group and we will get through it. And all the way through the program, I'll remind you, turn off, turn on, so you don't need to remember it by yourself. As the program progresses, if you have any questions, particularly if I mispronounce a name, will you speak right up and correct me? I've done my best, but I'm not going to guarantee 100%. But if you have any other questions, if you would just use the little chat box or raise your hand if it's an immediate question, and we'll try to get to it. Otherwise, we are going to, at the end of the formal program, we're going to stay, for those of you who want to, for an informal Q&A. I know some of you have to get off the call. So chat bar, if you have a question, right away, raise your hand, speak up if I mispronounce a name, and stay on later for a Q&A. Any questions right away? Okay. Well, let me quickly introduce board members who can wave a hand who are on the call of the with us today. Some of them you'll hear more about later. Ann Thompson, are you with us? Dave Olson? Dwayne Sander? I don't know if we can see everybody. Erica Peterson? Jerry Lickness, I know John Porter is there. Lauren Cheddar, I saw earlier. Michelle LaValle, who will be coming, I think, later as our board chair. Randy Hodak, I saw earlier. Steve Flannery, and Dr. Dick Gowan. So, also Greta Chapman, who's in my upper right corner, and Kelsey Stein, who is our marketing person that we retain at the South Dakota Hall of Fame, will be here to help as well. So without further ado, let's jump right in. And I'm going to start with the 5-year class, the class that was inducted in 2015. Those people are, I'll read your names quickly. The rest of you can turn off your camera. So stay with us. Jody Brown, the family of Art LaCroix, Dwayne Sander, Ann McKay Thompson, Lauren Cheddar, and the Leon, is it Reggae family? Am I saying that right? So here is that class of inductees of 2015. Okay, without further ado, let me start with Dodie Brown, who I don't see yet. But Dodie Brown was trained as a nurse. She worked tirelessly to develop home health and hospice programs in the state of South Dakota, working with the legislature and the Department of Health. She helped develop.
No, I can't get. I can't get a zoom on my thing.
That's Dodie.
I'm sorry, is Dodie with us?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad she's with us. So Dodie worked with the legislature and the Department of Health to develop licensing, to develop programs to expand home health and hospice care to low-income and rural residents, and to develop regulations to ensure quality care across the state of South Dakota. Dodie was a trailblazer, and just for example, she was instrumental in the creation of the first freestanding hospice facility here in Rapid City. It was the first in the state. Our next inductee from the 5-year class is former Rapid City Mayor Art LaCroix, and we are joined by Lloyd LaCroix. Hello, Lloyd, I can see you. Art was a decorated Army veteran, wounded in the Battle of the Bulge while serving in World War II. He came home to Rapid City and opened the Linoleum Center with 2 partners, but he began wider community service through the North Rapids Civic Association, was encouraged to run for city council, and in 1975 was elected mayor of Rapid City, where he served a record 6 terms. Mayor LaCroix led a period of rebuilding and growth from which Rapid City benefits today. Art LaCroix, who I had the pleasure of covering as a young reporter in Rapid City, left us at age 82 in 2005. An inductee with us is Dwayne Sander, and I know I saw Dwayne at some point. Dr. Dwayne Sander is an educator, spending more than 30 years as a professor in SDSU's Electrical Engineering Department, expanding degree programs in that department and guiding 20 Master of Science student projects towards completion of a thesis and publication. He is also an innovator, co-founding the global manufacturing electronic display company, Daktronics. And he is, in my words, a capacity builder.
Why didn't you tell me that we didn't have any sound?
By developing and launching programs like one of the first angel funds in South Dakota, the Enterprise Institute, and the Ron Reed Economic Development Center, both in Brookings. Congratulations, Dwayne, wherever you are there. Inductee Ann McKay Thompson. Are you with us, Ann?
Yes, I am. I'm waiting for someone to let me in.
Okay, hopefully Greta can hear you and will let you in.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'll read your story while we're waiting for that to happen. Ann McKay Thompson is an educator, nationally recognized for creating and directing innovative programs for all ages. She served as president of the South Dakota Humanities Council and was one of the first women to serve in the cabinet of a South Dakota governor, first as assistant director of education and then as secretary of labor. Since her university days when she was Miss South Dakota and chair of the state's Commission on the Status of Women, her life has been dedicated to serving all South Dakotans. Ann, congratulations.
Thank you.
I see him in my corner is inductee Dr. Lauren Cheddar. Lauren, if you want to give us a wave. Following residency at Mayo in internal medicine and hematology, Dr. Cheddar established his practice of internal medicine, hematology, and oncology in Sioux Falls. In his practice, Lauren was a pioneer and instrumental in establishing a research clinical treatment program as part of a patient's treatment for cancer. In order to do this, he helped the community establish the first institutional review board, which the government requires to review and approve protocols before patient use. All of this has grown into involvement with larger clinical programs, expanding cancer research and treatment in the Midwest. And Lauren works tirelessly as a member of the South Dakota Hall of Fame Board. Lawrence, we appreciate you, Lauren, and congratulations. And inductee Leon Reggae, am I saying it right? I can't hear you. Good?
You're me.
Okay. Leon was a very familiar name with farmers and homeowners as the state's go-to expert on weed control issues and well known as a panelist on South Dakota Public TV's Garden Line. That expertise was born out of a love of agriculture and years studying small grains and weeds. He served in the SDSU Extension agronomist weeds position, researching, educating, and solving weed management problems until his retirement in 2004, building a national following for his programs and for his knowledge. Congratulations, Leon. And that's the end of the 5-year class. Welcome back, 5-year class. Our 2010 class, and if we can, I think we'll put up a quick picture of that class. And if those of you who are in that class would leave your cameras on and the rest of you would turn it off. And those class members for 2010 are Eagle Woman, who all look at, Jim Keane. And I think that's all I have. Is that right? Just 2 of us in the class of 2010? That looks right. Okay, we'll come to the class of 2010 then and talk about those members. Barbara Harmon is joining us as a representative of Eagle Woman Who All Look At. Hello, Barbara. Eagle Woman Who All Look At was known as a woman of honor in both American and white societies for her attempts at peaceful compromise between the two very different ways of life. Her extraordinary life is full of examples of doing just that, from personally shielding a man from his attackers, to selling her own goods to buy food for starving tribes, to helping organize the first day school at Standing Rock. As the daughter of a distinguished chief, she understood that leadership could be earned and retained only by integrity, wisdom, generosity, and selfless dedication to the good of the tribe. Eagle Woman died in December 1888. And our next member of the class of 2010 is Jim Keane. I think Keane is, do I see Deb? Jim Keane had a 37-year daily newspaper career with the Rapid City Journal. He was a reporter, he was a columnist, and finally he was VP and editor at the time of his retirement in 1986. Jim's management ethic was to utilize all the talents of his staff to produce balanced, diverse coverage, and was known for encouraging ideas and innovation. He directed the coverage of the June 1972 Rapid City flood, one of the single largest news events in the western part of the state. In his retirement, Jim Keane continued to serve community organizations, including as a founder of the Mount Rushmore Institute, dedicated to freedom and the discussion of world topics. Congratulations, class of 2010. And now the class of 2005, our 15-year members. And I only have that we have one, Roger Casa, who is joined, and we are joined today by Lisa Wolf. Hello, Lisa, I saw you. Roger got his first job with his hometown newspaper in Minnesota the summer after graduating from high school. He came to South Dakota to further his education at Augustana and began working for the South Dakota Department of Social Services. He did that for 9 years before newspapers called again, and he joined the staff of the Huron Daily Plainsman as a city editor and later state editor, managing editor, and executive editor. But Roger Casa, in addition to his work job, also worked tirelessly for community groups, especially those benefiting youth and families. Lisa, congratulations in representing Roger. Thanks for joining us. All right, we'll move next to the 20-year class, the class of 2020. And those members if they would turn on their cameras and the rest of you off. Charles Burke II, Herb Bowden, and Dick Schleusner. There is our class in total, and I will start with Charles Burke II. I understand we're joined by Becky Burke and Bob Burke. You're there, go ahead and raise your hands. I'll give you a second to connect. Charles Burke II was involved in the banking business and gave back to his community and the state. As a businessman, he began his banking career while still in high school, working during the summer doing miscellaneous jobs at the bank that had been in his family for over 85 years, Bank West, formerly Pure National Bank. He served in a variety of positions in the bank throughout his career, from assistant cashier to vice president and finally president in 1972. Through his leadership, Bank West has grown and flourished to include 9 locations throughout South Dakota. Next is Herb Bowden. Al Bowden is the family member I have representing us. Herb was a unique combination of designer, application engineer, a high-achieving business entrepreneur, and a community leader. As the founder of Sencor, one of the largest manufacturers of electronic analyzers in the world, and BATCO, which designs, produces, and markets test equipment for medical manufacturers and hospitals, Herb Bowden established himself as a leader and a pioneer in his field. He was noted for his generosity to Sioux Falls community programs. And our last member of this class is Dick Schleusner, joined by Jeffrey Schleusner, Lori Schleusner, and Kathy Miller. Hello, Schleusner family. After teaching at Kansas State and Colorado State University, Dr. Schleusner brought his talents to the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. He served as the director of the Institute of Atmospheric Sciences, Dean of Engineering, president, and then for 11 years, president of mines. He worked very hard to sustain quality education at the school, to expand and develop research, and develop strong ties between the mines and the community of Rapid City. After leaving the mines, he became president of the Baxter Regional Eye Institute Foundation, being responsible for directing all activities of the Eye Institute. Dr. Schleusner provided leadership to many civic organizations focused on economic development and improving and sustaining the quality of life in the state. Congratulations, Schleusner family, Bowden family, and Burke families. We'll invite you to turn your cameras off as we go to the class of 1995. And if the family members of Jim Abner, Florence Atkinson, Dave Evans, Billy Sutton would turn on their cameras as we glimpsed the entire class of 1995. Let me start by talking a little bit about Jim Abner, and everybody on this call probably knows something about Jim Abner. There are several family members, too many to read, but I'll just have you all wave your hands. So working for South Dakota was a lifelong vocation for Jim Abner. First as a teacher and farmer, then a state senator, lieutenant governor, U.S. representative, U.S. senator, and finally small business administration administrator. The hat didn't matter, doing what was best for South Dakota and its people did. Senator Abner's career of helping South Dakotans was instilled in him by his parents, immigrants from Lebanon, who believed in the American dream and that success would come if you worked hard and you maintained your integrity. His love of South Dakota sports was legendary. He made state tournaments for 40 years. He handed out football schedules on his Senate card, and his humbleness was genuine. The story I will tell, if you referred to him by an honorific, it was "Call Me Jim." Congratulations, Abner family. It's good to see you today. Now we'll move to Florence Atkinson, and we're joined by Jean Smith. I saw you there. Welcome. Florence Atkinson was a lifelong resident of South Dakota and a nurse who found her life's calling working to better the lives of crippled children in the state. From 1947 to 1973, Florence spent much of her time visiting the homes of crippled children families to develop care plans and follow-up services. No home was ever too difficult for her to reach. She worked as a public health nurse, an orthopedic nurse, and a nurse consultant, largely in and around Mitchell, and she received many state and national awards for her work, but none may be as special as the gratitude of the families that she served. Congratulations, Jean. Dave Evans, joined by Mike Renning. Mike, I don't know if I saw you. Dave Evans served as a teacher, a coach, a high school principal, and superintendent in Belvedere. He was also superintendent, teacher, coach, counselor at Dakota, and he may be a household name to many of you as a result of his role of in his role as the executive secretary of the South Dakota High School Activities Association. While his leadership had certainly been apparent with every job he held, it was in the spot of the executive secretary that his ability to balance the interests of many while watching out for the good of the few South Dakota's young athletes. And now I know we have many members of the Sutton family to honor Billy Sutton. Grandson, I saw Billy Sutton is here. Renee Sutton, I saw you. Welcome. And when you look in the South,
I want to say, this is Ruth. This is Billy's spouse, and we're coming to you from her assisted living home.
oh, wonderful.
And Ruth had been on
Grandma
the
Ruth.
Hall of Fame, and she'd been on the Hall of Fame board many years after Billy passed away.
Oh, we're so glad you could be with us. And I see the picture, Grandma Ruth. Thank you very much. When you look in the South Dakota Hall of Fame archives, you will see many Sutton names. Sutton served as a 4-H leader for many years. He served the South Dakota High School Rodeo Association. He was a life member and served as the director of the South Dakota Cowboy and Western Heritage Hall of Fame. He became involved in politics, serving as a county commissioner. He was elected to the state senate and served 3 terms there, serving on appropriations, ag and natural resources committees, and the important Legislative Research Council. Billy Sutton was known nationally for his expertise in water development. He was still serving in 1982 as the director of the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce when he died in a tractor accident, leaving a family with a legacy of service that has served South Dakota for generations. And we thank you all for your work and for being with us today. Grandma Ruth, so good to see you. Glad you could be with us. We'll now move to the class of 1990, the 30-year class. And if those members would turn their cameras, Art Croach, and I'm going to ask Carol if she's on the call to tell me if I'm right. Alice Kunder, Warren Williamson are our 3 members representing this class today. All right, we will start with Art Croach is the way I'm saying it, and I hope I'm correct. Carol Asham is joining us. Carol, are you with us? Well, as head of Scotchman Industries, Art built that manufacturing company into one of the foremost modern blacksmith shops in the United States. He was a natural entrepreneur. Dropping out of high school to help his family after 8th grade, he started his own harvesting business when he was just 17. After a 2-year stint in the Army and a desire for a more settled life, Art bought a farm equipment repair business, expanding that operation into a scrap iron business and then into equipment design and manufacturing. And those inventions that he designed and manufactured included insecticide applicators and a line of cattle handling equipment that has been sold internationally. Alice Kundert is our next inductee. Becky may be with us today. South Dakota native Alice Kunder served as a role model in South Dakota for women for more than 40 years. She was a teacher and a dress shop manager who then also worked in school, city, and county government before being elected state auditor, secretary of state, and later to the state legislature for 2 terms. Ms. Kunder also worked to help young people as a top supporter of TAR, or Teenage Republicans, and through her work in 4-H. Alice Kunder passed away in 2013 in Mobridge. Next to Warren Williamson, and Dorothy Williamson was going to join us, his spouse. Warren Williamson was an award-winning athlete, teacher, coach, and administrator, just a few of his titles, but he is primarily recognized as the father of wrestling in the state of South Dakota, as one of the central figures in the developed high school and collegiate level wrestling in the state. During his own career at SDSU, he was coordinator of the intramural recreation and sports program and developed it into a model for the U.S. And himself, as an athlete in college, he was the first jackrabbit football player to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a season. Congratulations, our 30-year class. And now we'll move to the class of 1985. Those members are Isabelle Louise Jordan, Father John Vogel, Flora Huston Zeman. And if you representatives would turn on your cameras, that would be great. I'll start with Isabelle Louise Jordan. Charlie Newsom, are you joining us? Are you there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Isabelle Jordan is
I don't know if Charlie's there, but her granddaughter Shirley is.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. And thank you all for helping me with these connections. That's great. Isabelle Jordan was a South Dakota pioneer. She was born at Fort Pierre in 1891. Later, her family left Fort Pierre via covered wagon, driving their cattle ahead of them to homestead near what is now Faith, South Dakota. Isabelle met and married John Jordan, and they homesteaded south of Faith near Plainview. She set about building a family and helping build a community. Isabelle gave birth to 14 children, all at home, and raised and canned most of their food from her 8-acre garden. Now just think about this for a minute. It was not unusual for her to can 500 quarts of corn, barrels of dill pickles, and crocks of sauerkraut, along with hundreds of quarts of jellies and jams. There was not a church in the area, and the Jordan home opened their family to begin church services in that area. Pioneer Isabelle Jordan died in 1954. And we're so glad her family could be with us. Father John Vogel, Father Paul Trask is representing us. I see you, Father Trask.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Father Vogel was an early missionary in Dewey, Ziebach, and Meade counties. His tireless devotion to bringing spiritual comfort to the isolated families in the West River area is remembered by people of all faiths. Father Vogel traveled widely to offer church services and considered it important that each community had its own house of worship. He was instrumental in establishing 10 churches and 4 missions on the Cheyenne River Reservation. The parish hall at Cherry Creek was named after him in honor of Father Vogel's friendship to the Native people. And lastly in this class, Flora Huston Zeman, joined by Jason. And am I saying her name correctly, Jason?
Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. Flora spent her adult life promoting South Dakota and especially the Fort Pierre area with a special focus on Western history and culture. She was active in establishing the old Stanley County Historical Society and was instrumental in establishing, and I can never say the brothers' names right, Verendrye Museum, thank you, in Fort Pierre. For a number of years, she served as the historian in residence for the Daily Capital Journal, and she was the go-to person for anyone who was looking for information on the history of the Fort Pierre area or their families. With the exception of 1 year in high school, Ms. Zeman spent her entire life in the Fort Pierre area, passing away just short of her 81st birthday in 1990. Jason, thank you for being with us. Father, thanks for joining us and honoring the class, this Hall of Fame class. So we'll now move to the class of 1980, our 40-year class. And the members that I have are Baxter Berry, Hilton Briggs, Jim Bump, George Hunter, Ralph Jones, Billy Mills, Al Newharth, Jim Pollock, and Robert Vandemark. So if you folks would turn on your cameras, we'll start with Baxter Berry. And I understand we're joined by Barbara and Morris Jones. Wave your hands if we see you. Baxter Berry was raised on a ranch and took over operations when his father, Tom Berry, was elected governor of South Dakota. He managed through the drought and the depression of the 1930s and later became a pioneer in the breeding and raising of Scotch Highland cattle in western South Dakota. Mr. Berry's Highland cattle herd became the largest in the world, and the cattle were shipped from his ranch as far away as Ecuador, Alaska, and Canada. While very active in state and national stock growers associations, he was very well known for the attention that he gave to young people, and specifically the hand up he frequently gave to young people who were interested in ranching and in rodeo. Next is Hilton Briggs. Do we have any member? There's the Briggs family. Welcome. I have Deanna Briggs and Debbie.
This is Debbie. I don't know
Hi.
that Dina's got on or not, but
Okay, Dinas, thank you. Thank you for joining. Hilton Briggs was a leader in higher education in South Dakota and was a national and internationally recognized librarian. He judged all major sheep shows in the United States and was invited by the government of Peru to act as a livestock consultant and judge in that country's largest event. Dr. Briggs was honored by the South Dakota legislature for distinguished achievement as a teacher, scientist, administrator, and leader in higher education. During his 17 years leading South Dakota State University, student enrollment climbed 80%, and construction projects totaling nearly $37 million were completed, including a new library named in his honor. Congratulations, Briggs family. And I'll move now to Jim Bump, joined by Deborah Hepper. Hi, Deborah. While a student at the South Dakota School of Mines in Rapid City, Jim Bump worked at the Museum of Geology. He graduated as a metallurgical engineer in 1929, but his career path was dramatically altered when he was offered the job as the museum's first collector and proprietor. His rise in title and rank spanned 21 years, and in 1950, he was appointed professor of paleontology and director of the Museum of Geology. Jim personally participated in many expeditions to collect specimens for the museum, like this massive Triceratops head skull that was in the museum. At the same time, he was also extremely active in the Rapid City community through the Boy Scouts, the PTA, and the Lions Club. I'm going to move a little further north to the Deadwood area, to George Hunter. And Kevin Kuchenbecker, are you with us, Kevin? Well, George Hunter was one of the Black Hills' most prominent business people and entrepreneurs. He was born in 1886 in Deadwood Territory. And as a young man, he worked at several mining operations, as well as the Fish and Hunter Company, a mill and lumber operation that his father, a Deadwood pioneer, had started and owned. George Hunter was instrumental in organizing a wholesale grocery business and also had interests in real estate and lumber and auto sales. He was an early supporter of Korchak Julkowski and the carving of Crazy Horse Monument, and he served on its first board of directors. Move next to Ralph Jones, and Ralph Jones' grandson in Maryland. I don't see you to wave, but let me tell you Ralph's story. He was one of South Dakota's preeminent ranchers, as well as being an astute businessman. He started his own ranch, which would later grow to 75,000 acres spanning 4 counties. He was one of the original stockholders and organizers of Stockman Life Insurance and a founding partner in Frontier Investment, which bought the controlling interest in Prairie States Life Insurance. But Ralph Jones always said his favorite job was just being a cowboy. He passed away in Midland in 1978. And inductee Billy Mills. I have not seen Billy Mills. You've probably all seen the movie, but I'll give you the short version of the story. Billy Mills was South Dakota's first Olympic gold medalist, winning a come-from-behind victory in 1964 in Tokyo in the 10,000 meters. It is a feat that still stands as one of the biggest upsets in Olympic history. His path to Olympic glory was not an easy one. Orphaned at 12, worked hard and faced discrimination to win an athletic scholarship to the University of Kansas. He failed to make the 1960 Olympic team, so he ran 100 miles a week for 4 years, determined to make the 1964 team. The rest, of course, is history. Billy Mills spent his post-Olympic career inspiring generations with a special focus on Native youth. And next, Al Newharth, represented by friends and family. I see some Newharths in the corner. From a poor country boy in Eureka, South Dakota, to a self-made millionaire, Al Newhart's story seems like stuff of fiction. It isn't. Al Newhart worked in small newspapers through high school, then served in combat, earning a Bronze Star in World War II. He came home to attend the University of South Dakota, became a reporter, and launched his own weekly sports publication, and it failed. Broke and in debt, he took a reporting job at the Miami Herald, launching an astounding career, culminating as the head of the nation's then largest newspaper company, Gannett. He also started the nation's, I think, still most widely read daily newspaper, USA Today, and he founded the Freedom Forum, dedicated to the First Amendment, as well as the Newseum in Washington, D.C. Al Newhart was an author, an inspirational speaker, and an inspirer until the day he died from injuries from a fall in 2013. I'll move next to inductee Jim Pollock, who was the first artist to receive the South Dakota Artist of the Year award. He was born in Pollock, a town named for his great-grandfather. He received his formal art training from SDSU and served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam, where he worked in the combat art program. His drawings from that era are now a permanent part of the U.S. Army Center of Military History's War Collection. He designed the first issue of South Dakota's Bison silver and gold pieces, and his original art is housed in both public and private collections. And lastly, Dr. Robert Vandemark. And I see Richard Vandemark with us. After serving as an orthopedic surgeon in World War II, Dr. Robert Vandemark joined his uncle, Dr. Guy Vandemark, in practice in Sioux Falls. He helped start the Crippled Children's Hospital and School, now called the Children's Care Hospital and School. And after the death of his uncle, he took over as medical director and traveled the state, giving free assessments to parents who wondered how to treat their children's disabilities. Dr. Vandemark was a compassionate doctor who cared for children with disabilities. He was a pioneer in hand surgery and a physician always hungry for the latest in medical knowledge. In 1994, at age 80, Dr. Vandemark retired, and he passed away in 1995. We're glad you could be with us, Richard. So thank you. That was a quick trip through South Dakota history and our inductees. What amazing and inspiring lives. So our goal at the Hall of Fame is to preserve these stories and to keep these examples alive for the next generation. And if you can stay with us for a few minutes more, we'd like to give you just a quick glimpse of how we use this material and keep these stories alive. So if you wouldn't mind all turning off your cameras, we're going to go to the South Dakota Hall of Fame website where all of this material resides and do just a quick snapshot of what we call our 5 lanes of service. And as Greta is connecting them, I'll go ahead and start with the first lane of service, which is the honor ceremony that it's—
So stand by for a minute. Kelsey, you're going to have to give me access or you'll have to do the website part. I apologize.
You have the access now. I just made you the host.
As we said, we're informal here.
Here we go. Thank you. Hold on.
Okay, so we're going to go to the website, which by the way is sdhalloffame.org. And as Greta puts up the site, I'm going to start telling you about the first lane of service, which is the honors ceremony itself. You're probably most familiar with that. It's the ceremony in which we enshrine those elected into the Hall of Fame. We did not do an in-person event this year because of COVID. So in 2021, we will do 2 honors ceremonies, one in April to induct the 2020 class, and in 2021 to induct in September to induct the class of 2021. That's always the second Friday and Saturday in Chamberlain. And each ceremony weekend includes an anniversary reunion that we hope some of you will be able to join us for in the future. all of it, again, all this information is online if ever you're interested in who's elected, what their stories are, or how you might join us. Our next lane of service is what we call legacy of achievement. So once you are elected into the Hall of Fame, your story is captured and maintained in perpetuity in a digital format. This material is robustly used. In fact, since COVID and lockdowns across the state and nation, these pages alone, the usage has increased 51% since the first of the year, and we can continue to see those numbers climb. As inductees and family members, we'd encourage you to work with us to keep your pages updated, because we know things have happened in your life since you've been inducted. You can link new photos, videos, scripts, honors as things are updated. And this year we're launching a new program that we're calling the Legacy Video, which is a way to capture memories or stories of friends and families and link to the page. We'll be sending you directly more information about all of this, so you can be in contact with us if you'd like to update the pages. The third lane of service we call Legends and Learning. It is a free digital program that uses several of the inductee stories to teach South Dakota history across grades K through 12. We work with teachers to adapt the stories of the inductees into curriculum-based material that is used in a multitude of ways by state's educators. And this year, thanks to some generous donors, Legends and Learning will be piloting some additional content, including live webinars between students and inductees to help inspire the next generation to service in their profession or their communities. Our fourth lane of service is acts of excellence. So not everybody's got to get into the Hall of Fame like you and your family members, but nearly everyone in our state can do something to make a difference in their community. We decided to start Act of Excellence to collect those single moments. And in the last 4 years, we've collected over 110 of those acts of excellence. We put them all in a digital directory like you're seeing here. And our hope is that people who are looking for ways to be of benefit to their community, from a retiree who may have time on their hands to someone who's trying to do an Eagle Scout project, may get some good ideas through the Acts of Excellence format. Fifth, the Visitor and Education Center. Everything we've shown you before has been digital. The Visitor and Education Center is our bricks and mortar location on the river at Chamberlain. This year alone, we've had over 140 inductees or their family members visit the center, and we hope you will all be able to do that at some time as well. The center houses the inductee collections, and it includes rotating exhibits that are designed to champion a culture of excellence in the state. And you're seeing some of those exhibit examples that we have now. So that is just a quick snapshot of the 5 lanes of service and how we keep your stories alive and preserve the legacy of your loved ones. And Greta, do you have a couple of words now? Am I turning it to you? Or am I introducing our board chair, Michelle LaValle?
You are introducing our board chair, Michelle LaValle.
And there she is to wrap us up. So,
way to go, folks. Way to go.
Thank you to everybody.
We didn't know if we could pull this off, but boy, we sure did. I'm Michelle LaValle, and I can't tell you what an honor it is to be the chair of the South Dakota Hall of Fame. And wow, listening to all your stories tonight and your family stories, even if it's virtual, it just makes us all proud to be South Dakotans. Every year when we choose a new class, it is so challenging but so rewarding to listen to the stories. So thank you so much for making the effort to be here. To all of you and to our board. Did you introduce the board, Marcy, before? She's muted. Greta, did we introduce the board?
Yes.
Okay, thank you folks for being on. And a special thanks to Marcy Burdick. It's such a joy to have a professional television journalist on to do such a bravo job. And this is how I think this is how you clap when you're on a Zoom call. So Marcy,
Yes, you can all come back with us too, by the way.
Yes, everybody come back on.
Yeah, come back on so we can see everybody. I think we have 40 different people on. So
Yeah.
we weren't sure how this was going to go, but every year when we come together in person, it's one of the best parts of the weekend to hear you all and see you. So we're going to do this again next year. We're going to all forget about COVID and we're all going to be together again. So thank you to all of you for being on, and thank you to the board for your ongoing governance, and a special thank you to Greta Chapman, our CEO, who continues to propel this organization forward, and to Kelsey Stein, who really works at the hall and has been leading this endeavor tonight. So all those familiar faces, thanks, you guys. We're going to do this again, I think twice next year, right, Greta?
Yes, and if I could just add a couple of data points. This, again, as Michelle said, is our first virtual meetup with the anniversary reunion folks. We have 117 people in 8 classes, of which we were able to reconnect with all but 13. And we made 61 new connections. As some of you know, we haven't seen or spoke with some folks for 40 years. So while these are challenging times, we are thrilled to have this opportunity to be able to see family and friends. Most of the folks here are family and friends, sons and daughters and nieces and nephews. So we, spouses as well, we're so excited to see family members. It gives us a lot of insight into who you folks are, and hopefully what we are saying to you is how important the stories are 40 years later and all the years for the classes.
So
Does anybody want to do any questions? I know we were going to have an opportunity to have any kind of Q&A that you might want to, any questions you want to ask?
yeah, I was just gonna say, we're at the end of the formal program. We thank you, we honor you, and appreciate you. And if you need to go, we get it. But if you'd like to stay on a few minutes and chat or have questions, I'm looking at all of you can see the chat functions to everybody, and there's some great comments there. Do you have anything specifically?
This is Jim Pollack. I'm on Zoom. How do you add things? You were talking about adding things in there. I mean, I haven't given you guys anything since 1980 probably, and a lot of things have happened since then. What is the process that they go through to do that?
Excellent question. You get the Star Award, Jim. That's the other really great part about this is being able to say succinctly, you can send us your information, photos, documents, video links, or you can get an account and do it yourself, and or your techie that helps you out, whomever that may be. So in either case, you can either do it yourself directly on to your page, or we can do that for you by sending us scanned items through email.
And I got one other thing, is as the artist, I've always thought that, I can't speak for all the artists that have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, but I'm willing to donate at least one piece. And if you could get one piece from each of the artists that have been into this Hall of Fame, I mean, you could ask them, maybe they won't, maybe they will, but it would really, you'd have something to people to come in and see in the museum there. But, that's something that I've always thought about. And I mean, I'm willing to donate one piece, and I don't know, you have quite a few artists that have been inducted in over the years.
We thank you very much for your support and your idea as well, and we'll certainly continue that conversation with you and others as well. So thank you.
I hope I don't get myself into trouble with all the artists trying to give their art away with. But I really think that,
Yeah, over the years, but there's always more for us to do. And so we're happy to do so.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If I might just take a minute just to introduce perhaps our Acts of Excellence program. We encourage all of you to consider submitting an act of excellence. Basically, it's up to 200 words for individuals or groups. This is really an award in the sense of recognizing everyday things that are going on in your communities or with individuals. And as Marcy talked about that, but we just can't say enough about how this mission raises up all of South Dakota, and the Acts of Excellence is one of the ways that we started that program about 5 years ago. So we just encourage you to look into that. Not to also forget as well, we're now going into the season of inductee nominations. Again, all of it is online. We're happy to assist or help with that. Oftentimes our inductees or family members are the best resources for people that should be considered as inductees. So we would encourage you to visit the website for that information as we're going into that season as well. Any other questions or things that people want to ask? We are so excited to see so many family members and inductees.
Thank you for putting this together.
It was so fun to see so many familiar faces. Jan Newharth, I just always miss your dad, and anytime he'd be in South Dakota, he'd talk about returning to the sacred soil of South Dakota. So I have adopted his expression and love to say it. And for the Sutton family, I don't know, we got to do a good old yeehaw. Come on, Renee.
All right. We can do it. Okay,
We got
Mark,
3 generations
you
of Suttons on there.
on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Hey, I only lived there for 4 years, graduated from Spearfish High School. I'm not a native South Dakotan, but I will tell you, those were 4 amazing years. So great state.
We're going to claim you.
Yeah.
Hey,
We're claiming you.
Spearfish High School, class of '89. I graduated.
Woo! Proud South Dakotans all. Will you all come back to the hall next year when we're all back together again, and we'll do it again, right?
Trust me, I'm related to half the state, for goodness sake. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
One more thing before folks step off. Just a reminder, please save the date. You'll get more information, but the anniversary reunion, again, we have record number of folks over 60 that are looking to attend. April 17th on a Saturday is the anniversary reunion. We will be sending out invitations to that as well. So we very much look forward to that. We're going to have the reunion at the brunch. So we're doing a little bit different because we did a virtual medallion ceremony already with the inductees. So we're going to highlight and feature in a bigger way with more time with the anniversary reunion. So we're really excited and hope to see all of you there on the 17th of April. It will be in Chamberlain. All right, Ms. LaValle, Chair
Thanks,
LaValle.
everybody. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon. Go
Bye-bye.
South Dakota Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Adios.
Thanks. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.